In this session, we'll be adding rules to create an authorization policy for our wireless policy set. And just like the authorization rules under the wired policy set, we need to create authorization profiles first before we create those authorization rules. So let's go back into policy and policy elements and results. And we're looking to create authorization profiles. And we'll add, in a similar fashion to wired policy, authorization profiles to support our wireless environment. Different than the wired environment, the WLAN controller is not able to support the downloadable ACL concept. So to create an IP-based access policy for endpoints and users, we'll utilize an airspace ACL. The airspace ACL is pre-created on the WLAN controller in order for this function to be viable. And in this case, we have no drop down because this is not a configured element or component on ISE. It's configured on the WLAN controller. So we need to make sure that we specify that exactly as created on the WLAN controller. And again, we can verify the results down here at the bottom. And while we've mentioned the WLAN controller, let's take a quick peek to see what we've got for access list components on that side. And you can see we've got a handful of ACLs in place. Let's open this employee ACL. And you can see, just like the DACL that we created, that we're denying access to particular elements on the network and permitting it elsewhere. Okay, let's go back to ISE1. And we'll continue adding authorization profiles for wireless. And again, just like with all ACLs, both on iOS and in airspace, those are case-sensitive entities. And one more for the domain computer. So now we've got our wireless authorization profiles created. Let's now create the authorization rules in order to support wireless access. Go back into policy sets. In this case, we're editing the wireless policy set and authorization rules to support wireless. And again, just like we saw originally with the wired policy set, we've got just a default rule in place currently denying access. So we'll want to add rules. In this case, we'll use the exact same conditions that were used for matching under the wired policy set. And we'll add the newly created wireless authorization profile for this aspect. And an additional rule for our employees. Let's add the authorization profile. And an additional rule for our contractors. And you can see where the Condition Studio prevents possible typo issues. A lot of drag and drop. These are all specific values. And in addition to just the visual name that we're looking at there for those AD groups, it's the SID value that's being returned and actually matched by ISE. Let's add the authorization profile for this as well. And we'll add another rule in a similar fashion to the default policy set to support blacklisting of wireless devices, and see some of the other conditions that could be matched in the authorization profiles. In this case, ISE has a specific identity group to contain blacklist entities, and we can see that here. In some cases, such as with BYOD solutions, devices can be automatically added to the blacklist as they're reported lost or stolen. In most cases, this is a manual add that we're adding MAC addresses into this list to take action on them. and the action that we'll take is one that Cisco's provided for us by default. This black hole wireless access provides a redirection URL, so a device that's been blackholed will still get access, but they'll be redirected to a portal indicating that they've been blacklisted, so a blacklist port. Alright, we'll save this policy. And again, just as a reminder, this is a hierarchical policy, so we'll be evaluating these rules from top down until a match is found. We can rearrange that hierarchy by doing the drag and drops along the other side here. And the naming and labels are important. When we go to do troubleshooting with the live log, etc., we'll see matches against these rule names, which will help us analyze exactly the flow through ISE as rules are being matched and evaluated.